Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we'll start with our first section, which is about second language development across linguistic subareas. We said that linguistic subareas are like different branches of linguistics, like phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, and these things. We will talk about some of them, not all of them, and we'll start with phonology. But as always, we have our quiz about fossilization and avoidance. So, first of all, what do we mean by fossilization? Like, it's a short sentence or a phrase. It's mentioned in the previous video. What's the other term suggested by Long? So, we said that not all researchers agreed on the term fossilization or that it stays permanent. And they suggested, or Long suggested, another term. What is it? Then avoidance was one of the limitations of which approach? We said we talked about that approach before, and we mentioned it again in the previous video. So what approach are we talking about? And is avoidance found in L1 or L2? So what do you think? So if you know the answers, please do write them in the comment section. Then let's start. So when we talk about phonology, we're talking about speaking, pronunciation, speech sounds, and all that things like relating to producing sounds and speaking. So we'll talk about pronunciation. So pronunciation is often the area of L2 development that is the most difficult to master for L2 learners. So pronunciation clearly is the most difficult aspect or area or sub-area that is like to master for L2 learners. When we learn a second language, even if we master like vocabulary, grammar, the pronunciation is still like the hardest to master. It is also undeniably the most apparent or audible indicator of non-native command of another language. So let's say like what exposes us as non-native speakers is our like pronunciation or our accent. So even if we are talking correctly, still the accent will seem different. So they suggested a term for that language or that accent that we use as a non-native speaker, which is foreign accent. So foreign accent is the accent that is used by non-native speakers. We have perception-based production. So L2 perception tends to be more accurate than L2 production, just as in L1 acquisition. So in L1 and L2, perceiving sounds or speech is often more accurate than producing that sound or speech. So we may perceive like English or any language sounds correctly. We can differentiate between them even though they're nuances. But when producing them, we still can't produce them correctly. But there are a few studies that indicate that learners are able to produce L2 sounds that they have difficulty perceiving correctly. Actually, there was a study about English or Japanese native speakers trying to learn English. So Japanese people found difficulty in like perceiving the R and L sounds and like differentiating between them. But when producing these sounds, like it was easier for them. So like this like rule is not absolute. There are like some other studies that says that even like if we have difficulties perceiving these sounds, we still can produce them correctly. And how L2 sounds are perceived does not systematically translate into how those sounds are produced by the learner. There was like another study of a certain language. They perceived the sound th in English as a thing, as fa, as in find. But they produced it as da, as intent. So like the sound is a thing, how they perceived it is another thing, and how they produced it is like another thing. So how we perceive the sound does not translate to how we produce that sound all the time. Then we have speech learning model. So it's a model produced by Fletch. He says that L2 sounds that are similar to one in the L1 and L1 will be difficult to perceive or produce since learners already have L1 categories. Entirely new sounds will be easier to perceive or produce. So, for example, Chinese, the vowels in Chinese, I think have like 5 tones, different tones. So for us, the vowel is pronounced in only one way, or maybe two if we consider the nasal ones. But they have like 5 different pronunciations for one vowel. So because we already have a category for the vowel sound, like let's say E, perceiving these sounds or producing them, the different sounds, for us they all seem the same, or we hear that they are all the same, and we can't produce these nuances because we already have a category for that sound. But for example, if we learned or we are exposed to entirely new or different sound that we don't have any sound that represented in our native language, it will be easier for us to perceive and to produce. That's what Fletch's model or speech learning model says. Then we have L1 affecting L2 pronunciation. So there were numerous studies investigated L2 speech production by both child and adult learners. So different group of age groups. So they found that learners L1 appears to influence the pronunciation of L2 sounds. So whether they are like similar or different, L1 or L1 of the native speaker often influence L2. So this occurs at the level of individual sounds, segments, and also with regards to suprasegmentals. So suprasegmentals like intonation. So like in individual sounds like the, ta, and so on, and even like more than these sounds intonation. So L1 affect L2. Then we have markedness and pronunciation. We talked about markedness in our previous section, and we said like there are like features that are more natural than others, and the more natural ones are unmarked, and the like less natural or frequent one are marked. So let's talk about markedness in terms of pronunciation. So voicing contrasts like voiced and unvoiced or voiceless at the end of words like tab and tab are more marked than voicing contrasts at the beginning of words like pat and bat. So when the difference in voicing is at the end of the word, it's considered more marked, like tab and tab. It's less frequent, less natural. But when the voicing contrasts are at the beginning of the words like pat and bat, it's more natural and more frequent. So we said like when it's more frequent or more natural, it will be easier. So there was a study about German native speakers trying to learn English and vice versa. English speakers trying to learn German. So in German, both rad and rat are pronounced as rat with voiceless ta at the end. So in German or in Germany or in German language, there is no voicing contrast at the end of the words. So the marked feature is not there at all. So it's always that. It's always voiceless at the end. So when English native speakers tried to learn German, it was easy for them to acquire like this feature because they already have the marked equivalent, which is the contrast at the ending of the word or the final position. They have already tab and tab, so like pronouncing these two words as the same, it was easy for them. But vice versa, and in the other case, when German people tried to learn English, they found it difficult to like differentiate between tab and produce these two words as tab with voiceless p at the end. So because it's more marked, it was harder for them to pronounce these words, and at the end they produced devoiced the final sound to produce them as the same as tab. So this leads to that markedness also affects pronunciation and the production of sounds. We have other studies. Like it was found that superior reduction of dissimilar sound was not consistently true for all of their participants, as some were actually producing similar sounds than dissimilar sounds. As I said, these rules or these studies are not absolute. There are like individual differences and like there are other cases. So they say that not always dissimilar sounds were easier to pronounce. Some participants found it easier to produce similar sounds. We have learning patterns. So L2 learners do not follow one unique pattern when faced with learning a new sound or one that is pronounced differently from one in their L1. So like when they try to learn a new sound, like learners follow certain patterns, but they are like not the same. Everyone or every learner follows a unique pattern. So for instance, some of the strategies employed by an L2 learner include inserting a vowel sound in the consonant cluster, like in Arabic, some Arabic native speakers, when they try to pronounce English words that have a consonant cluster, like spray, they like insert a vowel. They say spray. So they've inserted a vowel in the consonant cluster, making it easier for them to pronounce. And some of them insert a vowel after a word final consonant, like big. Some learners do that, and this is called epenthesis, like adding a sound that is not in the word. We have deletion, like deleting a sound or sounds to make it easier for them to produce, and feature change, like we said, devoicing, like when say and tab, saying it tab. So this is devoicing or feature change. So learners follow different patterns and unique patterns. They are not always the same. And actually, that's all. Thank you for watching and see you again, inshallah, in our next video.